Ta Kim stared at the strange object burning across Seoul's night sky. The fiery streak cut through darkness, ending with a thunderous crash somewhere in Bukhan Mountain Park. As senior xenobiologist at Earth's newest first contact facility, he should report this immediately. Instead, he grabbed his emergency kit and jumped into his car. "Control, this is Dr. Kim," he said into his communication device. "Possible extraterrestrial landing in the northern forest. I'm closest. Going to investigate. Wait for backup, Dr. Kim," the voice crackled back. "Just preliminary observation," Tae replied, already speeding toward the mountain. "Someone needs to make first assessment." The roads emptied as he left the city behind. His headlights caught the wisps of smoke rising from the forest ahead. Todd parked at the trail entrance and continued on foot, following the smell of burnt vegetation and disturbed earth. The impact site wasn't difficult to find. Trees had snapped like toothpicks, creating a path of destruction, leading to a metallic object half buried in soil. Steam rose from its surface as rain began to fall, sizzling against the hot metal. Tai approached cautiously, scanner in hand. The readings confused him. Unknown metals, strange energy signatures, but no radiation dangers. The object was roughly oval-shaped, perhaps 4 meters long, with smooth surfaces marred by scorch marks and dents. A seam appeared in the side of the craft as Tai watched. He stepped back, heart pounding as the scene widened. His training told him to retreat, to wait for the containment team. His curiosity kept him rooted to the spot. A slender figure emerged, stumbling from the opening. In the beam of his flashlight, Todd saw iridescent skin that seemed to change colors with each movement. The being was humanoid but clearly not human. Too tall, too graceful even in distress, with large eyes that reflected light like opals. The alien looked directly at Tai and collapsed. Without thinking, Tai rushed forward. Up close, he could see the alien was injured. A dark liquid seeped from a wound on its torso. Female, he thought automatically, though he knew such categories might mean nothing across species. "I'm here to help," he said, knowing she couldn't understand. He raised empty hands to show he carried no weapons. The alien's eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked rapidly. She made sounds like singing glass, beautiful but incomprehensible. Taz's scanner beeped, analyzing atmosphere around them. "Oxygen levels compatible," it reported. At least she could breathe Earth's air. Distant sirens wailed. The containment team was coming. Ta knew procedures. The alien would be isolated, studied, treated as potential threat until proven otherwise. It was logical, safe. It was what humans did when facing the unknown. The alien reached toward him with a 6-fingered hand. More musical sounds, desperate now. Tai made a decision he knew might end his career. He helped her back into the craft and gestured for her to show him how it worked. To his surprise, she understood, touching panels that still functioned. A holographic display appeared, showing Earth and a blinking dot. "Another landing site. There's somewhere else you need to go," Tai asked. She touched her chest, then pointed to the dot. More urgent sounds. The sirens grew closer. Ta nodded. "I'll help you, but we must hurry." He supported her back to his car, amazed at how light she felt despite being taller than him. Her skin shimmered in his headlights, changing from blue to purple to green. "I'm Todd," he said, pointing to himself as he helped her into the passenger seat. She seemed to understand the introduction. Her melodic voice formed a sound that might be her name. Nari. Tai drove quickly down mountain roads, avoiding the approaching containment vehicles. The alien, Nari, studied everything with her 4 eyes, occasionally making soft musical notes that sounded like questions. The blinking dot on her holographic map led them to an abandoned research facility outside the city. The building stood dark against the night sky, seemingly empty for years. "This is where you wanted to go?" Tai asked, doubting his decision now. Neri stepped from the car, suddenly more purposeful despite her injuries. She approached the facility's sealed door and placed her hand against the security panel. To Ta's amazement, the ancient system responded, lights flickering on as the door slid open. Inside, dust covered everything except one room, a small laboratory with active equipment. In the center stood a device Ta had never seen before, glowing with soft blue light. Nari moved toward it with reverence. The device projected another hologram when she touched it, images of her world. Beautiful crystalline cities, beings like her moving through structures that seemed grown rather than built. Then destruction, massive ships darkening skies, energy weapons reducing everything to ash. "Your home," Ta whispered. "It's gone." Nari's musical speech continued, and to Ta's shock, the device began translating. "Last survivor of science team," the mechanical voice stated. "Refuge protocol activated before final attack. Emergency beacon set for Earth. Identified as developing world with compatible atmosphere. Translation matrix prepared." Tay realized this hadn't been random. Her people had prepared for this possibility, setting up this facility long ago. "How long has this place been here?" he asked. "Observation post established 300 Earth years ago," the translation continued. "Minimal interference directive. Study only." Nari spoke directly to Ta now, the device translating her musical language. "I am Nari, knowledge keeper of the Solari. My world is destroyed. The conquest will come here eventually. I have nowhere else to go." She lowered herself in what appeared to be a gesture of supplication. "I beg sanctuary. I offer service in exchange for protection. My knowledge for your shelter. This is our way when seeking refuge." Ta shook his head. "On Earth, we don't take servants. You don't need to serve anyone to receive help." The translator conveyed his words. Nari's eyes blinked in what might be confusion. "Without protection bond, I have no status. Your authorities will study me, use my knowledge without consent. The processing facilities for unbound refugees." Her musical tones faltered. "Few survive." Tay realized she knew more about galactic politics than he did. Earth had only recently acknowledged the existence of alien life, had barely begun establishing protocols. "There must be another way," he said. "There is not," Nari replied through the translator. "I studied your world. You lack unified governance. Without protection bond to established citizen, I have no rights under your laws." His communication device buzzed again. "Dr. Kim, unauthorized removal of extraterrestrial entity is violation code 7. Return immediately or face severe consequences." Ta looked at Nari, injured and desperate before him. Whatever her people called it, protection bond, servitude, she was asking for his help. "What exactly would this bond mean?" he asked. "I offer knowledge, assistance, loyalty. You provide protection, advocacy, shelter." The translation sounded simple, but Ta sensed deeper cultural meanings he couldn't grasp. Dawn light began filtering through dusty windows. Soon, authorities would track them here. "I can help you apply for refugee status," Ta offered. "Official channels." Nari's skin darkened to deep blue. "Official channels lead to containment. Study. Dissection, perhaps. The conquest destroyed my world for our technology. Your people will want the same." Tai couldn't argue. Humans had poor history with those perceived as different. "I accept your protection," he said finally. "Not as servant, but as guest under my responsibility. We'll figure out the rest." Nari's skin brightened immediately to shimmering gold. "The bond is accepted," the translator conveyed. "I am in your care, Ta of Earth." The small apartment felt even smaller with Nari in it. Ta watched as she moved around his living space, her iridescent skin changing colors with each shift of light. She seemed fascinated by the most ordinary things. The refrigerator hummed, and she pressed her ear against it. The television reflected her 4 eyes back at her, and the houseplant on his windowsill received careful inspection with her 6-fingered hands. "This dwelling is adequate," she said through the small translation device they had taken from the abandoned facility. Her melodic voice contrasted with the flat tone of the machine. I will adapt. Ty ran his fingers through his hair, still processing the events of the past 24 hours. He had effectively smuggled an alien refugee into his apartment, defied direct orders, and probably ruined his career at the first contact center. Director Jin would be furious. "This is temporary," he reminded her, "until we figure out a better solution." Nari's skin rippled with a pattern of deep blue. "I understand. I will be useful while here." Before Ty could respond, his communication device buzzed. Director Jin's name flashed on the screen. He took a deep breath and answered. "Dr. Kim, return to the facility immediately. Your actions are inexcusable." "Director Jin, I can explain. Explain why you removed an unprocessed extraterrestrial entity. Explain why you ignored direct orders. I've known you for 5 years, Ta. What were you thinking?" Ta looked at Nari, who stood perfectly still, her large eyes fixed on him. She was injured and scared. The containment protocols would have protected everyone involved, including the alien. Director Jin cut in. "Now you've created a diplomatic incident. The government wants answers." "Give me 48 hours, Ta said. "She has information about threats to Earth. Critical information." A long silence followed. 48 hours, then both of you report to the facility. And Ty, if you're lying to me. I'm not. Thank you, Director. After the call ended, Ta slumped onto his couch. Nari approached cautiously. "Your authority figure is angry," she observed. "You will be punished because of me." "Maybe, probably." Ta managed a small smile. "But I made my choice. Now we need to make the most of these 2 days." Nari's skin shifted to a warm golden hue. "Then I will begin repaying your protection immediately." Before Ta could stop her, she moved to his cluttered kitchen and began organizing it with efficient movements. He started to protest, but then realized this might be important to her, creating order in a strange place. "Are you hungry?" he asked instead. "I don't know what your people eat." Nari paused her work. Solari absorbed nutrients through both consumption and skin absorption. Water with minerals would be most beneficial. Ta filled a bowl with water and added a pinch of salt. Nari dipped her hands into it gratefully, and Ta watched in fascination as her skin seemed to drink the liquid. "Your home," he said carefully. "Would you tell me about it?" Pain flashed across her features. Solara was beautiful. Crystal cities that grew rather than were built. Oceans that sang with the voices of deep dwellers. We had peace for 10,000 years. Until this conquest arrived. Nari's skin darkened. They come to worlds with technology they desire. They take what they want, destroy what they don't. My people were known for energy manipulation. We could draw power from the very fabric of space. Ta sat up straighter. That's impossible. Not impossible, just unknown to humans. Nari moved to his laptop, which sat open on the table. "May I?" Ta nodded, curious. Her 6 fingers flew across the keyboard with surprising precision. Complex equations filled the screen, followed by diagrams unlike anything he had ever seen. "Ambient energy exists all around us," she explained. "What you call dark energy, background radiation, quantum fluctuations, all can be harvested with the right technology." Ta stared at the screen, understanding just enough of the mathematics to recognize its revolutionary potential. This could solve Earth's energy crisis overnight. "It could also attract the conquest," Nari said quietly. "They detected our energy signatures across space. That's how they found us." The implications hit Ta like a physical blow. So sharing this knowledge could put Earth in danger. Yes, but not sharing it leaves you defenseless when they eventually arrive. Nari's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "They will come, Ta. Perhaps not tomorrow, but someday." Sleep came with difficulty that night. Tai offered Nari his bed, but she preferred the floor near the window, where moonlight could touch her skin. He provided blankets which she arranged in a nest-like circle. Morning brought new challenges. Ta needed supplies but couldn't leave Nari alone. Taking her outside risked exposure. I can alter my appearance somewhat, she offered, skin shifting to a more human-like tone. My people are adaptable. Even with her skin a more normal color, Nari's height, proportions, and 4 eyes made disguise impossible. Ta settled for ordering delivery and hoping the building's security cameras wouldn't catch her clearly. While waiting, Nari examined his research notes with interest. Your understanding of biological systems is impressive for your technology level, she commented. But there are fundamental connections you're missing. She began sketching on his tablet, showing relationships between cellular structures and energy fields that Ta had never considered. Her knowledge made his 10 years of research look elementary. How do you know all this? He asked. I was a knowledge keeper, she explained. My function was to preserve critical scientific understanding. There were 5,000 of us once, each specializing in different fields. And now I may be the last. Her skin rippled with grief. The final transmission from our colony ship reported conquest vessels in pursuit. Tay's apartment doorbell rang, interrupting the moment. He collected the delivered supplies while Nari hid in the bathroom. When he returned, she had composed herself. Together, they prepared a simple meal, Ta showing her earth foods while she explained which ones contained nutrients compatible with her biology. Your risk for me is significant, she said as they ate. Why? Ta considered the question carefully. Because it was right, and because I believe cooperation between different species will benefit us all more than fear and isolation. A rare perspective. The conquest spreads because many worlds think only of themselves until it's too late. Nari's translator couldn't capture the musical sadness in her voice, but Tai felt it nonetheless. That afternoon, they worked together to prepare for their meeting with Director Jin. Nari compiled data about the conquest, their patterns, weaknesses, and likely time frame for reaching Earth's sector. Tad organized it in formats Earth's scientists would understand. They'll want your technology immediately, Todd warned. Some I can share safely. Others would be dangerous in your current development stage. Nari looked directly at him. They will not understand this distinction. Then I'll make them understand, Todd promised, though doubt gnawed at him. As evening fell, Nari approached the window, looking at the city lights spreading below. Your world is beautiful too, she said softly. Different from mine, but beautiful. We'll protect it, Ta said, standing beside her. Together. Nari's skin shimmed with hopeful colors. This agreement between us, it was reluctant, but perhaps it is the beginning of something important. I think it might be, Ta agreed, watching the stars appear above Seoul's skyline, seeing them now as not just distant lights, but homes to countless species, some friendly, some not. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight, in this small apartment, an unlikely alliance had formed, an alliance that might eventually save them all. The laboratory hummed with energy as Ta and Nari worked side by side. 3 weeks had passed since their tense meeting with Director Jin, where Nari's knowledge of the conquest had convinced the authorities to grant her temporary protected status. Now they shared a small research space at the Seoul First Contact Center, though Ta noticed how security cameras tracked Nari's every movement. The energy conversion is still not efficient enough, Nari said, her musical voice now familiar to Ta's ears even through the translator. Her 4 eyes focused on the small device they were building. Your Earth materials lack certain properties. Ta adjusted his safety goggles and examined the prototype. What had begun as a demonstration of Solari technology had evolved into a practical project. A clean energy converter that wouldn't attract unwanted attention from space. What if we try the modified silicon compound? Ta suggested, reaching for another component. Their fingers brushed as they both reached for the same tool. Early in their acquaintance, Nari would have pulled back immediately. Now she simply waited, her skin rippling with a warm golden pattern that Ta had come to recognize as contentment. You're learning quickly, she remarked. I have a good teacher. A knock on the laboratory door interrupted them. Director Jin entered, followed by a man in a military uniform Ta didn't recognize. "Dr. Kim, how is the project progressing?" Director Jin asked, though her eyes were fixed on Neri. "We've achieved 40% efficiency," Tay reported, "still working on stabilizing the energy flow." The military officer stepped forward. "General Park, Defense Ministry." He introduced himself. "I've reviewed your reports, Dr. Kim. Impressive work, but I'm interested in other applications." Todd felt Neri tense beside him. Her skin darkened slightly. "The energy converter has peaceful applications only," Ta said carefully. General Park smiled without warmth. "Any energy source can power weapon systems. The Solari technology could give us an advantage in planetary defense, or draw unwanted attention," Neri replied. "The Conquest detects advanced energy signatures across vast distances. We need to be prepared when they arrive," the general countered. "If," Director Jin corrected, "if they arrive." "When," Neri insisted, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of stress Ta had learned to recognize. "They will come. But weapons will not save you." After the visitors left, Neri's usual methodical movements became agitated. She organized tools with unnecessary precision, a behavior Ta had noticed emerged when she felt anxious. "They always ask for weapons," she said finally. "Every world, every time." Tai sat beside her. "Not everyone thinks that way. Director Jin is more interested in communication technology." "To contact other worlds?" Neri asked. "To understand your people better. To learn." Neri's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a calm blue. "Understanding is rare. My people studied Earth for centuries before making contact." "Is that why you had a facility here? The one where we found the translator?" Neri nodded. "Observation posts on many developing worlds. We watch, learn, and wait until a species is ready." "Were we ready?" Tai asked. "Almost." A musical sound like sad laughter came from her. "The Conquest did not give us time to complete the assessment." That evening, rather than returning to Ta's apartment, which had been their arrangement, Neri was required to stay in special quarters at the facility. Ta noticed the enhanced security measures: biometric locks, guards, surveillance. Protection or prison? Perhaps both. "Will you be comfortable?" he asked as he prepared to leave. "Comfort is not essential," Neri replied pragmatically. "But yes, the accommodation is adequate." Ta hesitated at the door. "I'll bring fresh fruit tomorrow. The tests showed mangoes have nutrients compatible with your biology." Neri's skin brightened. "Thank you. Your consideration is not required by our agreement, but appreciated." "It's not about agreements anymore, Neri. It's about friendship." The word hung in the air between them. Neri's 4 eyes widened slightly. "Friendship," she repeated, as if testing the concept. "Yes, I believe that describes our bond accurately now." The next morning, Tai arrived early with the promised mangoes, only to find Neri's quarters empty. Panic gripped him until he followed the sound of musical notes to a small garden area within the secure zone. There, Neri sat cross-legged on the ground, her hands buried in the soil, skin glowing with vitality. "Earth soil contains many beneficial minerals," she explained when she noticed him. "My people connect with the ecosystems of planets we visit. It helps us understand." Taz sat beside her, offering the fruit. "What do you understand about Earth so far?" "Your world is young but resilient, full of contradictions." She carefully tasted a piece of mango. "Like this fruit, sweet but with complex underlying notes." Their research continued over the following days. The energy converter gradually improved in efficiency, though Tai noticed Neri deliberately kept certain aspects of the technology simplified. She was sharing knowledge, but cautiously. One afternoon, while reviewing data, Ta found Neri studying his personal research notes, work unrelated to their project. "Your theories on interspecies communication have merit," she said, not looking up. "But you make assumptions about universal constants that aren't universal." Rather than feeling defensive, Tai was curious. "Like what?" You assume all sentient beings conceptualize time linearly. Many don't. This led to a fascinating discussion that lasted hours, extending beyond their workday. When they finally noticed the time, the facility had grown quiet around them. "I've kept you too long," Neri said, her skin shifting to apologetic purple. "No, this was valuable." Todd gathered his notes. "I've learned more from our conversations than from years of academic study." Neri's skin brightened. Knowledge exchange benefits both parties. This is the Solari way. As they walked through the quiet corridor toward Neri's quarters, they passed the laboratory where military personnel had set up their own research station. Through the window, Ty could see them examining components similar to those in their energy converter. Neri noticed too. Her steps faltered. "They're trying to weaponize it," she whispered. "They don't have your knowledge," Tade reassured her. "Without your guidance, they won't succeed. You underestimate human ingenuity." Neri's voice carried both admiration and concern. "Your species adapts quickly." That night, Ty couldn't sleep. He reviewed everything Neri had shared about the conquest, their technological capabilities, their relentless expansion, their targeting of worlds with advanced energy signatures. If Earth developed weapons based on Solari technology, would it protect them or mark them as the next target? His phone chimed with a message from Director Jin. "Security Council meeting tomorrow. Bring LL research notes." When Ty arrived at the facility the next morning, he found Neri already waiting in their laboratory. She had organized their workspace with meticulous precision, another sign of her anxiety. "They want everything we've developed," Ta told her. "The council meeting will determine if I remain useful or become a threat," Neri finished. Her skin had taken on a dull gray tone he'd never seen before. Ta moved closer, speaking quietly though he knew the room was monitored. "I won't let them treat you as a resource to be used. All refugees are resources, Ta. The only question is whether we're valued or exploited." Neri's 4 eyes met his gaze. "But in you, I have found something rare. Trust. Growing trust." She placed a small crystal in his hand. "This contains information I haven't shared with your authorities. Knowledge my people would only give to those we fully trust." Ty closed his fingers around the crystal. "What is it?" "A warning. And a solution." Neri's skin rippled with determination. "But first, we must convince your leaders that cooperation yields better results than exploitation." Together, they gathered their notes and headed toward the council meeting, sides touching slightly as they walked. Two beings from different worlds, united by growing trust and a shared concern for the future. The alarm blared through the first contact center at exactly 3:27 a.m. Todd jolted awake on the small cot in his office where he'd been sleeping lately to stay close to the research. The emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red. "All personnel report to the main command center immediately," the announcement system repeated. Tug grabbed his lab coat and rushed into the corridor. Other scientists emerged from their rooms, faces tight with concern. No drill had been scheduled. His first thought was of Mary. He changed direction, heading toward her quarters instead. The guards normally posted at her door were gone. Inside, he found her already dressed, her iridescent skin pulsing with dark blue patterns he recognized as fear. "You feel it too," she said, not surprised to see him. "Feel what?" "The alarm woke me." "I woke before the alarm," Neri replied, her musical voice strained. "Something entered your solar system, something large." Together, they hurried to the command center. The large room buzzed with frantic activity. Director Jin stood before the main screen, her usual composure visibly shaken. General Park and other military officials huddled around monitoring stations. "Dr. Kim." "Good," Director Jin called when she spotted them. "We need your expertise. And yours especially," she added, nodding to Nari. The main screen showed a space map of Earth's solar system. Near the orbit of Jupiter, 6 large objects moved with unnatural precision. They appeared suddenly, a technician explained. No approach trajectory, just appeared. Quantum displacement, Neri said quietly. Her 4 eyes hadn't left the screen. They've improved their technology since my world fell. The room grew silent as everyone turned to her. These are conquest vessels, General Park asked. Neri's skin darkened to almost black. Scouts. The first wave. How long do we have? Director Jin's voice remained steady despite the news. 3 of your days before they reach Earth orbit, Neri replied. Perhaps 4 if they pause to examine your outer planets. The room erupted in overlapping conversations. Military officials made urgent calls. Scientists debated detection methods. Government representatives arrived demanding information. Tan noticed Neri backing away from the crowd, her skin flickering with stressed patterns. He guided her to a quieter corner. You knew this would happen, he said, not accusingly but with realization. I hoped we would have more time. Neri's fingers clutched the edge of a desk. The crystal I gave you. I still have it. Ta patted his pocket. I haven't had a chance to examine it fully. Now is the time. Her voice carried unusual urgency. But not here. Too many eyes, too many agendas. A loud argument had broken out between General Park and Director Jin about response strategies. The general advocated immediate military preparation, while Director Jin insisted on attempting communication first. The conquest doesn't communicate, Neri said loudly enough for everyone to hear. They assess, then take what they want. Then we strike first, General Park declared. With what? Tai asked. Our current weapons technology would be useless against ships that can quantum displace. General Park's expression hardened. We've been developing adaptations based on the Solari energy converter, offensive capabilities. Neri's skin paled to almost white. You've been building weapons with my technology, without my knowledge. For planetary defense, the general replied unapologetically. It seems we were right to do so. You were wrong. Neri's voice lost its musical quality, becoming sharp with distress. Such weapons will only confirm what they suspect, that Earth has Solari technology. They will not retreat. They will destroy everything. The argument intensified. Ta watched as military and scientific viewpoints collided, each side certain their approach would save Earth. Through it all, Neri grew quieter, her skin shifting through stress patterns he'd never seen before. When Director Jin called a brief recess to consult with government officials, Ta pulled Neri into his laboratory. Show me what's on the crystal, he said once they were alone. Neri touched the small crystal to Ta's computer. Immediately, complex schematics appeared on the screen. Designs unlike anything he'd seen before. This is not a weapon, she explained. It's a planetary shield. My people developed it as our last defense. Too late to implement before the conquest arrived. But the theory was sound. Tai studied the designs with growing amazement. This creates a field that prevents quantum displacement, forces them to remain in normal space. Yes, they cannot simply appear inside your atmosphere. They must approach conventionally, which gives time for negotiation or evacuation. But this would require enormous power, Ta noted, reviewing the energy requirements. Yes, more than your planet currently generates. Neri's fingers traced the designs. But there is a way. With the right materials, we could build a converter large enough. The laboratory door opened. General Park entered with 2 armed soldiers. I thought I might find you here, he said coldly. Discussing options without military oversight. Discussing survival options, Ta corrected, stepping slightly in front of Neri. Survival means fighting back. The weapons adaptation project needs your aliens' input to be completed in time. The general turned to Neri. Your cooperation is no longer optional. It's required. Ta felt Neri trembling beside him. She's been cooperating from the beginning, but not with weapons that would make Earth a bigger target. That's not your decision to make, Dr. Kim. The general gestured to his soldiers. Escort the alien to the military research lab. Dr. Kim, you're removed from this project effective immediately. As the soldiers approached, Nari's skin began to glow with an intensity Tai had never witnessed. The lights in the laboratory flickered. "I will not create death technology," she said, her voice resonating strangely. "Not again. My people learned too late what happens when knowledge is perverted for destruction." The crystal in the computer began to pulse with the same light that emanated from Mary's skin. The computer screen flickered, then displayed a new message in blinking red letters. "TRANSMA session active." "What are you doing?" General Park demanded. "Calling for help." Nari replied simply. "There are others like me. Refugees hidden on Earth. Scattered, in hiding, but watching. Waiting." The message continued to blink as data streamed across the screen too fast to read. Coordinates appeared, then disappeared. "Stop this now." The general reached for the computer. Tai intercepted him. "Wait, she's not betraying us. She's gathering allies." The laboratory door burst open again. Director Jin entered, her face flushed with anger. "General, your authorization to operate in this facility has been temporarily suspended by the Security Council." She handed him an official document. "Your weapons program created energy signatures that likely attracted the conquest vessels in the first place." The general's face reddened. "You can't be serious. We need those weapons now more than ever." "What we need," Director Jin said firmly, "is to listen to the one person who actually understands our enemy." She turned to Nari. "The transmission you're sending, it's to other Solari refugees." Nari nodded, her skin gradually returning to its normal iridescent state. 12 survived on Earth. Scientists, engineers, teachers, all in hiding, fearing the same treatment I received initially. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "But they will come now. The threat is too great to remain hidden." The crystal stopped pulsing. The computer displayed a map of Earth with 12 blinking points of light, each representing a location. "If we work together," Nari said, placing her 6-fingered hand on Ta's arm, "we can build the shield before the conquest arrives. Not as servants, not as weapons makers, but as allies with a common enemy." Ta looked from the map to Nari, then to Director Jin, whose expression had shifted from anger to cautious hope. "How quickly can we transport them here?" Director Jin asked. "They're already on their way," Nari replied. "The threat has emerged. Now our response must emerge too." The roof of the first contact center offered a clear view of Seoul's skyline and the night sky beyond. Ta stood beside Nari, watching as 12 glowing dots of light approached from different directions. Not aircraft or vehicles, but Solari moving in their natural state. Pure energy temporarily, a form of travel they rarely used because it made them too visible. "I never knew you could do that," Ta said, his breath making small clouds in the cool night air. "It drains us significantly," Nari explained, her skin glowing in response to her approaching people. "We use this ability only in desperate times." The first of the energy forms descended to the roof, materializing into a tall Solari with deep green skin patterns. Others followed, each with unique color variations, all with the characteristic 4 eyes and 6-fingered hands of their species. They greeted Nari with musical sounds that the translator couldn't capture. "My friends," Nari addressed them in human language for Ta's benefit. "Thank you for coming despite the risks." Director Jin watched from the doorway with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Behind her, a group of Earth's top scientists waited. General Park stood apart, his military position maintained but his authority limited by the Security Council's intervention. A Solari with silver patterns flowing across blue skin approached Ta. "You are the one who protected Nari," he said, his translator producing a deeper voice. "I am Mainu, engineering specialist." "And I am Hana, biological systems," introduced another with delicate pink patterns. One by one, the Solari introduced themselves and their specialties. Chun, the quantum physicist, Duri, the materials scientist, Sora, the energy specialist. Each had lived on Earth for years, some for decades, hiding their true nature while observing humanity. We have 2 days before the conquest ships reach Earth orbit. Director Jin reminded everyone once introductions finished. What do you need to build this shield? Minu projected a holographic display from a crystal similar to Nari's. Materials, primarily. Rare earth elements in quantities your mining operations can provide, but refined to purity levels your technology struggles with. The military has stockpiles of rare earth materials, General Park offered unexpectedly. When others looked at him with surprise, he added, I want Earth protected. If weapons won't work, we try another approach. For the next 18 hours, the unlikely alliance worked without rest. The Solari directed, Earth's scientists and engineers executed. The first contact center transformed from research facility to emergency manufacturing plant. Special materials arrived from military and scientific installations worldwide. Tai worked alongside Nari, translating complex Solari concepts into instructions humans could follow. He noticed how effortlessly the alien refugees communicated with each other. Subtle skin color changes conveying information as much as their musical language. How long have some of you been on Earth? He asked during a brief break. Jun arrived 300 years ago with the original observation mission. Nari replied. Others came later. I was last, escaping the final attack. And you never revealed yourselves. We were instructed to observe only, to evaluate if Earth was ready for contact. Her skin rippled with what Tai now recognized as sadness. We watched your wars, your technological progress, your treatment of those different from yourselves. And we failed the test, Ta guessed. You were progressing, Nari corrected gently, but slowly. The conquest forced our hand. By dawn of the second day, 7 enormous relay stations had been positioned strategically around the globe. Each contained Solari technology merged with human engineering, a true collaboration of both worlds' knowledge. At the first contact center, the final component took shape, a central control hub that would coordinate the shield network. Minu and Jun worked with a team of quantum physicists, their hands moving with practiced precision over components too advanced for Earth's current technology level. The energy requirements are still beyond our capacity, a human engineer reported with frustration. Even with all power plants worldwide diverted to this system, we're still 30% short. Nari and the other Solari exchanged looks, their skin patterns shifting in what appeared to be a silent conversation. There is another way, Hannah said finally, but it requires sacrifice. The 12 Solari gathered in a circle. Nari explained to the humans, we can serve as living conduits. Our bodies naturally process energy in ways yours cannot. That would kill you, Ta protested, understanding immediately. Not kill, Nari corrected. Transform. We would become part of the shield. Director Jin stepped forward. There must be another solution. There isn't, Minu stated simply. Not in the time remaining. General Park, who had been silent for hours, suddenly spoke. What about the weapons program? The energy converters we developed, could they be repurposed? Jun's skin brightened with surprise. Yes. Modified correctly, they could reduce the biological component required. So not all of you would need to transform? Tai asked. Perhaps only 3 or 4, Jun confirmed. The oldest volunteers. The military's energy converters were quickly brought to the center. The Solari modified them with efficiency born of centuries of experience. Hours passed in frantic activity as the countdown to the conquest's arrival continued relentlessly. Outside, people went about their daily lives, mostly unaware of the threat approaching or the desperate measures being taken to protect them. World governments had decided against causing global panic. Only those directly involved knew the full truth. By sunset, the shield network was ready. The modified energy converters hummed with power, connected to power grids worldwide. 4 Solari volunteers, Jun, Menu, and 2 others, prepared themselves for the transformation that would complete the system. It is an honor, Jun told the assembled humans. to protect a world not our own, but which has been our home. Neri embraced each volunteer, her skin displaying patterns so complex and beautiful that Tai felt tears forming in his eyes. The musical sounds of their goodbyes needed no translation. The emotion transcended language. Will they feel pain? Ta whispered to Neri. No, transformation is liberation in a way. Their consciousness will continue, but differently. They will become guardians in the purest sense. The conquest ships were now visible through Earth's strongest telescopes, massive dark shapes against the stars, approaching Mars' orbit. Time had run out. The 4 volunteers positioned themselves at cardinal points around the central hub. At a signal from Jun, the system activated. Energy flowed through the Solari, their bodies glowing brighter and brighter until Tai had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, they were gone. In their place, 4 pillars of light connected to the hub, pulsing with living energy. Around the world, the relay stations activated in sequence. On monitors throughout the facility, they watched as an invisible field extended outward from Earth, growing until it encompassed the entire planet and its immediate orbital space. It's working, Director Jin whispered as data streamed across screens. The shield is forming. Through space telescopes, they observed the conquest ships suddenly slow their approach. The vessels attempted to quantum displace, to simply appear near Earth as was their strategy, but something prevented it. For the first time, the invaders were forced to remain in normal space. Now they must decide, Neri explained, to approach conventionally, making themselves vulnerable to countermeasures, or to retreat and seek easier targets. For tense hours, the conquest ships held position near Mars. Scans showed them probing the shield, testing its strength. Finally, they began to move, away from Earth, back toward the outer solar system. The control room erupted in cheers and tears of relief. Humans embraced each other and even embraced the remaining Solari, whose skin glowed with joy and sorrow simultaneously. General Park approached Neri formally. On behalf of Earth's defense forces, I thank your people for their sacrifice. The shield will need maintenance, Neri told him. Continual adjustments as the conquest develops new methods. This is not a permanent victory, but a beginning. Director Jin nodded. A beginning of a new alliance between our worlds. Later, as celebrations continued around them, Tai and Neri returned to the roof. The night sky seemed different somehow. Still beautiful, but now Tai saw it with new awareness of both its wonders and its dangers. What happens now? He asked, for the remaining Solari. Neri's skin shifted through thoughtful patterns. We have lived in shadows too long. Perhaps now we can truly be part of this world. No more servant status. Ta smiled. No. Equals. Partners. Neri's 4 eyes looked up at the stars. The conquest destroyed our world, but they could not destroy what we are. Knowledge keepers. Now that knowledge has a new home. Below them, Seoul continued its nightly rhythm, its people unaware how close they had come to destruction, or how an unlikely alliance of humans and refugees from a distant star had changed Earth's future forever. Equals, Tae repeated, standing shoulder to shoulder with Nari as they watched over the city they had saved together. I like the sound of that.